right, we are
Okay.
live. Welcome, everybody, to our favorite time of the week. It's Sunday night with Global Strangeness. And we are myself, Deborah, Jeremy, and Scott, who is MIA at this moment. And this week, we're really excited because we have a fellow paranormal enthusiast, Andrea. I'll let you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your podcast, where we can find you, and then we can get into it. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. My name's Andrea Bailey, and I'm a paranormal investigator on Vancouver Island in British Columbia. And I have a pretty phenomenal team called Unearthing Shadows Paranormal. So we primarily focus here on the island, a little bit on the mainland, and we've done some international studies. And we're a channel called Unearthing Shadows Paranormal, where we post a lot of our stuff as well as on Instagram. And our intent is just doing ethical investigating and researching and trying to help those on each side of the realm.
That's interesting. Ethical investigating. That's really interesting. So does that mean that, you're also there to help spirits move on, or that's kind of the gist of what you're doing?
Absolutely. Yeah. We do our best to try to understand both sides of it and what actually phenomena is going on. And if we can help transition a spirit, we don't want anybody, alive or in the afterworld suffering. So if there's something we can do, even if it's just as simple as to try to have a better understanding and to tell their story, we certainly will, do the best we can on both sides.
Oh, that is super cool. So is that something that you took some training on how to help people cross over? Is that something that came naturally with your own, awakening and or gifts, or how does that work? Is there a school for it?
Not really. It kind of started off with just personal experiences. I've had things happen to me my entire life. I had a very traumatic place or experience, haunted house that seemed like it should be in the movies, and that kind of propelled me in this direction, because at the time there was nobody to help, and everybody was like, keep quiet, people are going to think you're nuts. And I'm like, that's not fair, because like a lot of people were experiencing these things, but at the time there weren't like the podcast and the TV show. There was just nobody to help. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to have to essentially save myself. And that gave me a different perspective. And then I started working with local teams and experts, and started learning even about science and photography. And it just took me down this whole, multitude of rabbit holes to try to understand. And, fortunately, having friends that are like psychics and mediums and having some empathic abilities myself, it just developed, and pulling a team together that, helped with this, kind of took us on this adventure. But, it's ever learning. You're never going to stop learning in this field.
Can you tell us about the house you grew up in? You said it was like a movie theater haunting, or?
Scott loves haunting. Scott loves haunting
Yeah.
movies, so yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, I was like in my early 20s, so I don't want to date myself, so don't ask me how long ago it was. But I had moved to Calgary, and then I had just moved back to Vancouver, and there was a lady, she was a coworker of my mom, and she was going away for about a year and a half, so she wanted to rent her house, and she kind of kept telling me if anything weird goes on to let her know. Now, I'm assuming that just meant her ex, because I didn't really think anything of it. But I moved into this house. It was just me and my cat. I always had like the welcoming house, like the fun house, like I threw the parties, and no matter what I did to this home, it just was very cold and stale, and people did not like coming here. And then it started with the neighbor on the left side starting to complain about how it was making noise, and there was this banging, and I'm like, I had no TV, no stereo, nothing hooked up, and I wasn't eating that much. And then doors started shaking and opening, and like point where it scared off the gentleman I was dating at the time, which from his point of view, I get it. And the property manager came, and he witnessed some of the things that were going on because of all the complaints I was getting from this noise. And I think it was safe me living there, but I'm like, well, I have nowhere to go. So then things escalated where like doors would fly open. There was this one spare room I hated going into, and there was a commotion going on there at night, and I was just downstairs doing dishes, and I ran upstairs, opened the door. The papers were just flying in these circular motions, and then just stopped and just dropped around. And I had a huge brass lamp that was quite heavy that flew out of the wall and dented. And it just got to the point where like under the door at night, you would see footsteps going back and forth and back and forth. Like I was so scared. I was sleeping in the walk-in closet, like, and I'd only fall asleep about every fourth night because I was so scared. And then the last major event was my bathroom was at the top of the stairs, and I got pinned up against the door twice. And the second time I was able to push it off me, and I turned around to see this 50-some-year-old heavy-set man charging toward me, and he disappeared about 2 inches in front of my face.
My goodness.
Did you end up like cleaning the house, or you just
Sort
leave?
of. I did what I knew at the time, which was very limited, and I started doing research, finding that it was on First Nations burial ground that wasn't taken in like any ethical fashion. And then as we learned, there was like in
Typical
later years, like
Canadians.
there was like portals, just with the ley lines that it was set on. Like there were so many things, and the address of this place was like 1606, you know, so it just it was like
your landlord knew that this was like this. Like, was she giving you some kind of a discount on rent, or like what the? That's pretty.
yeah,
bad.
sadly no, but I did end up kind of delicately saying, hey, there's some things going on, and all she said to me was, I'll handle it. And then I moved out shortly after, but I knew the people that all the stuff that I had done, and I think it was more about the information. That seemed to be what stopped the activity. And then after that, I just felt like something always behind me, a couple inches, just very defeated feeling. There was no more door openings. There was no more being pinned against anything. Like all that stopped as soon as I confronted it and started investigating the history of the property.
Do you live close to the place now? Do you ever go back and see the people who are living there now?
I don't go back. I've gone back, taking a few people that I trust, because I don't really want to tell people so they're not knocking on the door, but I do investigate a schoolhouse that's a street away from there. So I do go by there frequently, but my understanding, somebody I knew moved into that property for about a year and a half after I moved out, and they said they never experienced anything from that point on.
Damn,
So-
I mean, my wife's family could use you. I think they live in a house built on Native American burial ground, so
Oh wow.
it's a creepy freaking house to be in. You go in the backyard there at night, and you're going to be freaking like in a Scooby-Doo cartoon, like ready to run.
Wow.
That's just because
Like-
Jeremy's scared of the dark, though.
I do not like the dark, because I do enough of these interviews. I do enough of these interviews on my own show to know it's in the dark. But I don't like the dark. But I'm not a fan of it. I will brave it because I'm a man. And I have to do things for my wife. But I mean, at the end of the day, nah. It's just I know enough about what's out there, and I swear to God, in the back of that house, I swear to God, I saw like a freaking ABC, an alien big cat. Like it looked like a panther or something.
Oh wow.
I mean, it was pitch black out, but I swear to God, I saw a panther. Like out of the corner of my eye, like not even out of the corner of my eye, like I just looked sideways, and then I saw it like run by the swing set. I was like, it was just big. I was like, what the fuck was that? Like, there's no mountain lions here. Where the hell is that?
That's interesting. I'd be curious to investigate that a little bit more.
But it's also in the Bridgewater Triangle, so that's a whole plethora of. We did an episode about that a couple weeks ago, actually. Portals.
Portals, yeah.
And that's kind of what you were saying, that house had like some sort of portal.
Yeah, I do feel there was two things going on. I feel the main thing was that gentleman, and I felt terrified during the experience, but after looking back, I felt he was just upset and wanting the story told. But between these two rooms, it was just like a highway of back and forth, and I feel that from the gentleman haunting the home, and that energy always felt there because I had gone into the property a few times after, but I think whoever was there just didn't notice that. And I think that was more not aware that I or anybody else was there. It was just an energy channel.
Mhm.
So
What's the craziest place you've ever investigated?
Plas Teg in North Wales. It's the most beautiful 17th century Jacobean mansion. Sorry, that's my dog in the background drinking. The the hauntings there were so different than anything I've experienced here in North America. You felt the energy just felt differently. You could tell it was a lot more ancient. There's a lot of different things around there. It was just interesting. I never was really sure if I believed in possessions before investigating that place, and standing there watching this 5'0" petite woman, having 5 of us trying to get her out of this room and barely having the strength for us 5 of us to get her out, and watching her mouth say, "Help me," and having a man's voice come out of her mouth as well, was the scariest thing I'd ever seen. And it was quite eye-opening. It just made me realize, like, don't always dismiss. I can be very skeptical at times. Like, I'm a very healthy believer and skeptic, but there's a lot of what people report, and don't dismiss it until you've actually witnessed it to be, true or untrue. So that was.
What was that? Was that an actual exorcism they were performing and you were allowed to sit in, or like, what was that? Oh, no.
So when I went there, I was staying at this place called the Old Pub, and it's in Chester. It's super haunted. They just kind of handed me the keys and were like, just investigate it, have fun. Through there, I met this paranormal team, and they would do investigations there once in a while. So they were like, come to Plastig with us, and we're doing a public event, and you can be one of the. So I got to help host and facilitate it. But there was this particular family, and it was really quite interesting because I truly feel that this entity actually came with them, because it was 2 sisters, the son, his girlfriend, and the grandmother, and it seemed very possessive over them. And being that this place was very haunted and they seemed to be very energies and spirits, they were attracting a lot. So I think this energy was very much like, nope, these are mine. And I think there was a couple incidents where other spirits were coming around these people, and he just decided to possess one of them that was trying to connect with them. Like, you could see this cold mass like engulf these people. The grandmother had she seemed to be able to control it a lot more than the 2 daughters. But I felt it was just very possessive. But you could see, like, at the base of the neck, I watched, like, you could see it almost like scrape up and then blood start coming through. And so I just kind of grabbed her. We got her out of the room, just got her grounded, and kind of, gave her food and gum and just silly things like that, just to kind of get her connected again. And I was like, I don't think you should be investing. We didn't really know what was happening at the time. But it was just really interesting to see the spirits and like the magnitude of different types of energies there, because like there was a lot of protection on all the windows, and there's pentagrams everywhere. Every room had something different. It was just like a spiritual playground there.
That's fascinating. Oh my gosh.
Did
I would
the
highly-
demon get out?
Oh, pardon me?
Did you guys exercise it, or what happened? She just went home?
The problem with them was me and one of the ladies from that team were trying to give her some suggestions on what to do, but they were almost welcoming it. Fine. Now we know. That's when they kind of admitted like stuff like that would happen in their home. And we were like, this is getting really dangerous for you, because as you saw what just happened, you can't really let that continue on, right? It's almost like a controlling relationship. And the grandmother took it seriously. The 2 daughters, they were kind of inviting it. So I gave them a number of tips on what they should do and some resources. And I don't know, that's the hard part, is like, there's only so much you can do. You can't force somebody. So I did what I could to send some protection, and I work with energies. But you can't enforce that on people at times, which is unfortunate when you're trying to protect them. So.
And do you see, because I find that interesting, I really believe in energies, kind of see myself. And I see a lot of people, it's opening up so much, this topic, paranormal stuff, people are opening up to this. There's a lot of people playing around with it.
Yeah.
And almost, like sarcastic attitude or whatever. But if you're not sensitive and you don't, like, things can attach to you, you can control it, but you're not even aware of it. It's kind of a dangerous thing, right? And it's becoming a fad and a trend with all these, exploding. So do you see that? Because I see that a lot. I'm like, ooh.
Oh, all the time. Like I constantly hesitated for a long time teaching how to be a paranormal investigator because a lot of people did not have good intent. And that's the number one question I ask is, what is your intent for getting into this? And I find a lot of people make a mockery out of it. I don't like this whole like I have a haunted doll. Like that is not like I don't understand why people think it's fun to go out and get these energetic attached items because it's not this. I don't know. I think we can thank Zach Bagans for probably some of that.
Oh, we ain't thanking Zach Baggins for anything. We ain't thanking him in this community for anything besides making us look more like fools. But
that's
Am I the only one that doesn't know who that is?
Ghost Adventures.
No.
You know.
Scott, any reality show where it's guys going into a dark place and saying, "We're here looking for ghosts. Oh, I'm peeing my pants. I'm so scared of the ghosts." Like it's him.
Well, we
and
He is
flexing
the-
his muscles.
Discovery
He is the most-
Channel people on. I didn't know.
They're real though. They're real. He is the
Okay.
most dramatic wannabe paranormal investigator ever. He is doing it solely for fame.
Huh.
Yeah.
Ghost
But that's-
Adventures.
He's on multiples, but that's one of them. That's the main
That
one.
is
Yeah.
one of them. Yeah.
Is that interesting to watch? Should I be
Well,
watching an episode?
But this, I mean, if you want to laugh at a freaking guy who acts like a woman, yeah,
A
you
group
can
of
go ahead,
guys.
yeah.
They're all
Oh,
the whole
I
thing.
mean, they're all overly dramatic. It's like watching Queer Eye for the Straight Guy and Ghost Adventures combined. That's what it's like.
Yeah, my kids watch a bunch of like YouTube influencers that.
Well, YouTube's different. These are like History Channel, Travel Channel people.
I'll have to check it out.
Well, you should,
Out of
because
the
we're gonna
loop.
be
What
we're
the
gonna be
hell?
doing Scott. We're gonna be doing a top paranormal slash supernatural TV show slash reality show bracket eventually. I got one made up.
Is that the next one?
Oh, dude, I got a lot of movie ones and TV show ones coming up. No worry, don't you worry. Deborah, vampire movies are coming.
That's my hurt.
I'm
Vampires.
with you there. I'll join you on those ones.
I was interviewing people this weekend and I ran into a English dude and I had him tell me about his ghost stories. He says England is like off
mega
the
haunted.
charts more haunted than America.
It's older. It's older and it has a lot more rich history. Like, of course
Well,
it's.
I've been to Philly. Like when you're in Philly, you can kind of feel it a little more, than
Oh
like
yeah, it's
Utah.
Philly.
It's been like 100 years,
You're-
maybe. But
So
You're-
do you guys
you're-
think? Because I have a theory that older buildings with stone, because stone like it will absorb energy more. Like if you pick up right, you can feel different energies off different things. So some of these older places is because of the building materials. I think
you might
absorb
be
energy.
onto
Mm.
something.
I think so.
I feel like that's.
Ghosts
I feel
don't
like that's a
the
little.
40,000 chemicals in our modern
I-
construction.
Deborah, I feel like that's a little bit too Ghostbusters for me. Like that's a little too Ghostbusters, that theory. Like it. I mean, it's there's something. It's a multi-dimensional thing. There's much more going on than just what the hell kind of building happened to be there. Like they're attached to that part of the dimension. They're not attached to what the hell is on it.
But if you
that building
believe in
gets-
the crystals, like that shit, all
Like
holds
different
energy,
things
right?
have different vibrations, and they'll imprint energetic.
What are you talking about crystals into this for, Scott? Like,
Well, because she's talking about rocks.
He's
like
on my
rocks
side.
Oh.
Rocks
Well,
would hold more energy.
I don't think. I mean, I think crystals work because it's state of mind. It's you tell yourself they're working, so it makes them work because
Some
you
of
think
it,
they're
yeah,
working.
somewhat, yeah.
It's all mental. It's all what you think. I mean, I fully support, as a paranormal podcaster, I fully support anybody who does crystal work. But I mean, it's just I don't see the benefit in it. I mean, then again, I could be wrong. I didn't think Reiki worked until I started taking classes, and now I'm feeling the effects of it every other week. But still, I mean, it's just I don't see crystals working. I just don't. I mean, I don't know, babe. Do you think crystals work? The look
Has-
I've got says no.
As a
What do you think,
paranormal
Andrea?
pod-
What's your take on different, you know?
I mean, and
Yes.
my wife thinks crosses work. If she doesn't think crystals work, then
Dude, I've seen crystals shoot away the chemtrail clouds. Okay. So as a paranormal podcaster, I 100% support
you
crystals,
and your birds aren't real, dude. You and your birds aren't
They're-
real. You're flat Earth shit.
chemtrail removal.
Well, I'll chime in here a bit. Like I support Deborah. Like you know, like a lot of things. Like I think brick and rock and crystals and all those things, they definitely can amplify what's going on. Like we already know, like onto like sense and energy, and you know, for at least 152 years as of now, and that's just science, right? But with like crystals, like they do scientifically have vibrations which match, you know, spiritual energetic vibrations, and we use them quite a bit, even with like even quartz and that within our you know detection devices, and we do seem to get amplified responses out of it sometimes. You know, we do feel they're protective. Like for example, that's one of the things that I mainly use when we're trying to clear a home. I'll always use selenite, but true selenite, and we'll put that in the four corners of the house onto the person if they're being negatively affected, and even without telling them. And often I'll do that as a test, being like, just hold on to this and tell me what you feel, and they'll give you the same response. So I do feel that, you know, the crystals do work, and if they're used appropriately.
Can you buy selenite on Amazon? Like, could I buy some for my house? Would that? Right now, all we
100%.
have is sage.
So the one thing I'll tell you about selenite, and I'm happy to send you some too, because like I use a lot of like the pure selenite. Like often selenite is that beautiful like crystals lamps that you see, that looks very angelic. It's actually satin spar, and it's in the same family as selenite. Selenite usually is very clear, and it's also known as like TV stone, but there's an abundance around like here in like Alberta and BC, and it has a lot of minerals. So with using like earth energies, it's a really good grounding stone, and also connecting with like, if you believe in angels, the angelic force, and with a lighter vibration, it pushes out the negative energy, because negative is attracted to negative, right? So it's just a very good stone to have, and I take it with me no matter what, just to keep it as a peaceful cleansing. And it's also in the family of like salt. We know like salt is very good purifying stone, and even salt itself, like pure sea salt, that's one of the most cleansing products you can get. And it's jumping back a bit too about like Vancouver Island, for example, like with the type of rock that this island is built on, we're typically known as one of the most haunted places in Canada. And it's believed because of the rock and the crystals help amplify a lot of the spiritual activities. So that's
water definitely is conducive. So yeah,
definitely. So
I mean,
those are
Deborah could be finding this crystal. It's by where you guys live. What's up?
That would involve Deborah.
We're gonna start selling some global strangeness selenite.
Well, I guess we sent Scott to Skinwalker Ranch all by himself. So if I have to go get some crystals for my homework,
No.
Ted Bundy's
Deborah,
cave.
he's going to Skinwalker's Ranch with Buckles in a little while.
I watched the new videos, dude, and like you can't even get to the road where it tells you can't come in. Like I could just be in the desert 20 minutes away from my house and tell you guys it's Skinwalker Ranch at that point.
I would never know.
Yeah, it all looks
I watched the secret Skinwalker Ranch enough to know what it looks like. Thank you. But and Scott, to get Deborah to get this crystal would involve sending her into Dogman territory. So I don't know if we want to do that.
I love.
I mean, she may find a new husband and leave us, and we can't have that.
That's the danger. Yes.
how about I'll just mail you some.
There you go. Right.
No, we're talking about starting a whole add-on to the business here. Start selling some selenite.
Oh, to go along with your tarot readings.
Yeah, dude, $50 a pop. Get some selenite half off.
And I mean, Scott, I just officially applied to monetize on what is now X, was formerly Twitter.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. So
I don't have anybody on Twitter. I don't know how that works.
X. It's called X
Or
now.
X.
Just like just like Facebook's called Meta. I mean, all these freaking name changes by billionaires. You know, it's just kind of strange.
Yeah.
So
No.
Andrea, well, while we have you here, what's the most famous haunted place? Like, have you been, obviously, probably the Empress Hotel and that, like there's spirits around there. What's the most kind of well-known story? Did you pick stuff up? Did you get footage?
Probably one of two places I would say, like locally anyways, like Fort Rod Hill and Fiskard Lighthouse. Like I have a pretty clear photo. We were at the only allowed investigation there ever. They quietly let us investigate thereafter, but that one public proper investigation, everybody was outside of the lighthouse and we knew something was there. It was just toying with everybody the whole night. And there was just something in the windows, the shutters were closed, and I just felt there was something there. So I started taking pictures. I always take a series of pictures without a flash, so we have comparables. And you can see there's nothing. And then in one, I think it was like the third or fourth photo, there's this creepy face. It almost looked like a clown face, very elongated, like widow's peak, very round, menacing eyes and elongated teeth. I don't know if it was an elemental or what it was, but it really caught me off guard. And then next to it, there's an orb. And I'm always very skeptical about orbs, but the orbs, you can actually see a face within it. Now, I had the camera in front of my face, so I know it wasn't reflecting me. I know the lighthouse is it's about 2 staircases above the ground. Everybody was down below. There was no mannequins, no photos, like there was nothing that could have been reflected. So I feel very certain that we caught an elemental or something in that building. It was in about 3 of the 8 photos that I captured, and I was in the exact same spot. Now I've gone back there, I've caught mists in that window, like you quite commonly catch something in this window. So it does seem to be attached to the lighthouse somehow, but I do think it's some kind of earth elemental. I don't believe it's, the nicest thing, but I feel it is something created by the natural energies there. So that's a pretty well-known haunted place. Like anything you could think of, you will find on that location. The other place would probably be, actually my favorite place in town here is, it used to be the old Maritime Museum. So I was really lucky. I volunteered. I've just been like countless nights investigating there, but it was the original Supreme Court house and it's now condemned. But that was a really fantastically haunted place. You would just get lost in there. There were so many rooms and like things to discover, and like you would think you would be in this building for like 10 minutes and like 4 hours would have passed. Like it was such a wonderful place, and there was everything there, like the creepiest, meanest spirits there to like the nicest, friendly, just everything. It was just the best place, and it was a really good place for like studying the paranormal too, because like I probably investigated there over 30 times. Like you knew what to expect there. And if anything new was introduced, you were able to detect that right away.
Yeah, it would be good to like learn the difference between who you're interacting with or whatever, if you're kind of new to it or whatever, right?
Yeah. It was a great place. Like I wish it was still open to invite you all there to experience it. So
Do you, when you take the photos, is there a difference between like film and digital?
For me, I still like the mirrored cameras because you know what you're getting. Film, I think you have to be careful because so many things have been debunked with like over processing or under processing, or just the solutions that are being used. And sometimes you think you get this great photo, but it ends up being a processing issue, right? So it ends up not being, I just don't trust it quite as much. But I do find some of the experiments that are interesting where you just take like an unused or an undeveloped, unopened roll film and you stick it in a box. But again, there's so many, when those get developed, there's so many variables. So I'm a fan of mirrored cameras. You know what to expect, you know how they work. You don't have a lot of technology interfering with them. Digital seems to be pretty, what you take is what you get on the other end. So I trust that the most out of any.
But mirrored over like a DSLR?
Well, yeah, I just find the more systems we introduce with like over processing and how that information is transferred, there's more of a risk of a glitch happening with those systems. And I'm not poo-pooing that at all, because I think, there's a lot of really good credible evidence we get that way. But like the mirror, because it's a very easy transfer from image to your data card.
Mhm.
So, we used to use when we first started off, I used to like a lot of like the old Sony camcorders, right? But then when you're using like uh the videotapes that you're recording over again, you start realizing that those tapes aren't always fully,
I gotcha.
so it's hard, right? Because we're doing the best we can, but being credible, but there's always these things you have to look at that may suggest that what you're seeing is not exactly what you've uncovered.
And what about audio recording? Because we've had other investigators on here, and they use, all types of equipment or whatever to get audio recordings. Do you use a ghost
So-
box or whatever they call them?
We do. We have a spirit box. I always double up, like whether it's just video cameras, audio recordings, anything, we double up. We try to use two. And also that way, if we catch the same thing on like the camcorder and the two recordings, and we're also getting that through the spirit box, usually, that all supports the legitimacy of what we're getting through. But we try to use everything. And we also have a philosophy. We try to break everything so we know what isn't working, and then we can actually say when something we feel is paranormal is coming through, that we've tried all these other ways to make it not work, and this seems legitimate.
And what about, have you done where they have flashlights and they turn on for yes and that kind of thing? Because I always think that's
Yeah.
really,
Yeah, it's interesting, like some of the locations you think that will work at and it doesn't, and other places you wouldn't expect it to and it does, but we do that quite a bit. I'm a big fan of using ultraviolet lights, setting up static cameras with ultraviolet or different, light source, which always proves to be quite interesting. Recently we've been trying different experiments with like the Delco experiments as well, and that's been quite interesting. And
what is that? It's Delco. I haven't heard.
just with where you're in the room with the red glasses and you've got the spirit box on with head, can't hear anything else, and you're through the red, and you could do this with like purple as well for like the ultraviolet, but you start seeing images, and supposedly that you're able to see through the light spectrum, and just getting what's in like the red spectrum, see the spirits through that dimension. So it's quite interesting.
It's basically like that game that little girls playing that TV show Evil, that make them start seeing a demon. Like that's basically what it is. Like it just opens your world to a whole nother dimension.
So, but you said like in the very first house you lived in that you saw a man. So are you able to see energy or spirits take formation just with your own?
Like me personally, or
Yeah.
It really depends. Like most of the time I have been able to see spirit, but usually it's visually with my eyes, like whether it's out of the corner of my eyes or something like that, where you're like, oh my God, this man's walking towards me and I can see through him. Oh my goodness, right? But I don't really have control over that. What I do have control over is that like I can sense energy, and like I feel everybody has their own energy signature. And sometimes, when it's like, say, your spouse and they walk up behind you and you just can feel them. I can feel that with the spirit as well, being like, this one's familiar, this one's not. This one you need to be cautious of. This one's
Well, I mean, I don't know if my wife can feel my energy like that, because every time I walk in a room, I scare the shit out of her without even meaning to. Like I literally just walk in the room. I don't have to say anything. I just walk in the room, and like if I start to say something, it's like 5 mile hollow jump. Like so I guess she doesn't get my energy yet, and it's actually
maybe
weird.
she does.
Well, riddle me this, since you deal with this stuff. We've been seeing in our house lately like a 3D type of shadow figure.
What, like it pops out, or?
Like it looks like its body has angles more than you would think like a regular shadow person would. Like if you look at it, it looks like a video game creature almost from like the early 90s.
So are you seeing the definition of it, like hands and eyes and that
Yeah.
sort of thing?
Oh, well, I don't know about the hand. I don't know about the hands and eyes type thing, but
Better
it
you
looks like
than me.
it looks like a person burned in a fire. I'm being told.
Interesting.
And obviously, our house didn't burn down because I'm sitting in it. So but yeah.
Was anything introduced into your home when this started happening?
No, I mean, our home's been haunted since we moved in. We know that. We had paranormal investigators come in back in 2021, and we believe it's the original owner and his wife that are here. But now we think there might be a third thing here, unless one of them got eviler, I guess would be the word. I mean, I guess I don't know what's more. I don't know what's more evil than killing chickens, but whatever that step is, he must have took it.
Interesting.
So I don't know.
Do you get any feeling when this entity comes around? Like,
I mean, I personally have not seen it fully. I mean, I am one of the most. I am one of those believers who wants to see everything but never can see shit because it's just the way life works. But I mean, the house has creepy feelings pretty much all. Anytime it's dark out, the house has creepy feelings. You don't like going in any room here without turning a light on first. And it's come out of places before that you wouldn't expect to come out, like underneath the bed and stuff.
huh?
The toilet's
mean, luckily-
the worst place.
Luckily, it doesn't bother the kids. But I mean, they saw a video of a spirit orb in my son's room, and that kind of freaked them out for a couple of days. But so I mean, I don't know. There's multiple things here, and I keep meaning to talk to this guy I was on a podcast with months ago that said he can clean it out from a remote, and I'm like, all right, if you can do that, brother, I am with you. Let's do it. But I keep meaning to get with him and do that. But
I think
I
I
don't
know
know,
who you're
but that-
talking about.
Kalani Ghost Hunter, I think his name is.
I think
think.
I
He
know
was
who
on
you-
Eleanor Wagner's show with me a while back, but yeah.
I would give him a try. I think he's pretty legitimate. Seems
Oh,
to.
I have no doubt he's legitimate. I've heard him tell stories, and oh my god, his stories will make you want to not sleep with the lights off that night. But
So where do you sit with the whole dog man thing, as Jeremy?
thank you, Scott. I was waiting for someone to bring it up.
Sorry, I think I missed part of what or half of what you said. My thoughts on Dogman. You said.
Yeah, do you
Yep, dog
get
man.
into the cryptid side of paranormal, or do you think
Y'all go squatching is what he's
It's
asking.
just,
Do you guys go squatching? You guys go squatching?
Would like to because we have. I find it really fascinating, but what I'm finding here on the island, I have reached out to a lot of we've got a lot of cryptozoology type creatures here. Like we have kind of our own Loch Ness monster, Bigfoot's big thing, like the list goes on. So I've reached out to other teams.
Oh, we know. Every time we do a cryptid episode, Deborah brings some cryptid from that
I have
category.
to represent. We have to represent Canadian.
represent?
Gotta hide the stuff in Canada that's really wrong with it. But yeah, go ahead.
But I find interesting is they are very you deal with your ghosts and leave us alone. We don't want to bring you along with us. And I have not yet been able to find a team, which is hard because we're very credible and we worked really hard to have a good reputation and we're very interested in other types of paranormal, but they just they're not interested in us ghost hunters coming along with them. So
You think
we
Good, though, because cryptids, aliens, and paranormal, it is all connected, right? It's all.
I mean, there are
100%.
there are those that say that ghosts are just extraterrestrial spirits that don't want to go back to the waiting room of the DMV where they have to wait for a new body. They want to stay on Earth where they have freedom. Scott, what are you doing now?
I'm finishing my burritos, dude.
He's making us lunch and never sending it to us.
I'm still waiting to get that venison jerky he made
Well, you're
6
gonna
months
have to
ago.
resend your address because I don't remember you guys sending your addresses.
I'm pretty sure I sent it. I'll send it to you again. Don't worry.
Well,
But-
One of these
back
days,
up.
we're just gonna show up at your house right at dinner time and ring the doorbell, and you're making us dinner.
Okay.
Mormons don't like Canadians, Deborah. Don't you know that?
If you want to drive down here, for a cheap
Dude,
dinner, go for it.
dude, if I had money, seeing the stuff you cook on Facebook, I would be in there for a week, just like mooching off you to eat that food.
Man, I am like always drunk when I post it because Deborah was bringing up me posting food on Facebook. I don't remember posting a lot of food on Facebook.
So you're a drunk poster. Of course you
Yeah.
are.
Oh, I am a drunk poster. Yeah, that
Mhm.
turn. It becomes Scott's music radio hour when I'm
Oh, God.
drinking and get on Facebook.
It's
God help us all.
hilarious.
So we've been
Well-
doing our podcast here for over a year now, which is crazy.
year.
We've never done an on-site investigation because obviously we live all different corners of, the
Of
earth.
North America. Yeah.
So, but I'd love to, I'd love to actually do an on-site thing. Like, do you have a dream location that you would, if you could go anywhere in the world, you would go to?
Good question, Deborah. Good question.
So, oh gosh, my list is like, I have books of lists, so it's really hard for me to pick one place. But it's not really one place. I've always had a real fascination with like Villa Tepes or Tepes and like, the foundation of Dracula, right? Like vampires has always been created
Oh,
mine.
okay.
So I want to Romania. There's a list in Romania that I would like to investigate. And if we can get there, we have been granted permission to investigate a couple of the castles associated with Valed and where he impaled people. And I thought that would be quite interesting to, everybody's always interested in the, the typical castles, but what about where he actually led his tale of destruction and some of these vampire tales have come from. So I thought that would be interesting.
His highly glorified tale that was not the tale that exists is nowhere near as true as it really was, and they really took a leap in the bound with the vampire story. I'm just saying, I believe vampires are real, I believe in vampires. Do not get me wrong, but that has nothing to fucking do with Vlad the Impaler.
But what's fascinating is he had dark energy. That's a human. That guy had dark energy.
So did Hitler, so did Pol Pot, so did Hillary Clinton, so did Joe Biden.
But Vlad, wasn't he only really used for the Dracula story? There's no lore around him being an actual vampire.
Yeah, there was lore around him having there was lore around him being some kind of dark magic user, whether it's vampiric or whether it was just a regular warlock. Same as there's rumors about Hitler using werewolf soldiers and trying to contact Satan. There's a lot of lore about a lot of dark people in history. It doesn't all mean it's true, but some of it probably is because people are crazy. But
well, that's just it. And that's the thing. If you really look into the true tale of him and his history, it's quite interesting. And especially with his father, right? There's a whole a dark ring, and using blood magic, and he, just tales around him and just Romania in general, the Hoyu Baciu Forest, and I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. There's a lot of really interesting tales in Romania. So I find it all quite fascinating. And when you actually look at the truths behind it and not just the glorifications, it's really fascinating. And there's quite a lure to investigate these locations.
Oh, he was an interesting dark man. He definitely freaking was.
Yeah.
I've heard the true story of him, and he's fascinating. He really is. Yes, did he impale heads on sticks in front of his castle to make his enemies feel fear? Yeah, he did. But that's just brilliant war tactic. That's not anything supernatural right there. That's the same as hanging dead animals in front of your yard to keep people from coming to your yard. Same thing. Same idea.
Well, that's basically it.
Go to Alabama. Go to Alabama.
I think too, there's so much belief, it's not even that long ago that people were digging up graves and putting stakes through because they still strongly, in general, believe. There's so much belief around it. That's a whole lot of energy directed into this, right? Even the people around it believe so heavily. It's a lot of energy being directed around this darkness. I don't know. I think you would get a lot of kind of cool experiences there for sure.
I did to one of my exes the other night, so it's all good.
Stop.
But it's just I don't know, these legends. I mean, but do you believe in dogmen? Because you never answered Scott's brilliant question that he
Sorry.
asked. And I am surprised he wasn't asking about birds are real or flat Earth, but he went with dogmen, which I'm impressed with. So
Birds aren't real, by the way, right?
think-
I'm just joking. I believe birds are real.
no, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. He thinks birds are cameras that spy for the government, and they charge on power lines.
It's funny to make people think that.
Okay, let her answer about Dogman.
It's hard for me to say yes or no, just because I've been in a position where I've actually been able to like fully investigate that. So for me, I'm always very skeptical to say yes, I believe this, or no, I not, or I don't when I haven't been fully immersed in it. But I do find some of the stories compelling, and I believe there are some truths behind, that focused in on that. So I think there's some. I think it could be possible. I think there's some truths linked to the stories that are unfolding right now and that we're seeing on social media. But I'm not sure I would say at this point that I fully believe the folklore around it, but I'm not saying I don't believe it either. So that's not the best answer, but without being able to actually, I'm the kind of person where I need to see it and really dive into that investigation myself before I'll say, yes, I believe in something fully.
Okay, I'm gonna say right now, you don't want to see one in person. I'm telling you right the hell now. You don't want to see one in person. But I've heard enough bad stories about that. And didn't you say you're on Vancouver Island? If I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's a dogman hotspot. Like I'm pretty sure in Canada that's one of the hotspots.
So there's more stories, more like it's where I am, like I'm on like the southern island, like it's very like heavily populated. More the stories are more like northern island.
It's the exact correlation of the land between the lakes in Wisconsin. Exact correlation. That's exactly the same thing that people in Wisconsin say. Like that, the top of the island, there's nothing, no wildlife, nothing. On the bottom half of the island, it's just like normal, and there's birds singing and everything else. But on the top half, there's nothing but no roadkill, no nothing. Like it's just something's eating everything.
Usually like the mid to northern islands, or like the eastern, or well, I guess the western part of the island, like Souk and where the logging road, that's where you typically get more of those stories, or those types of sightings.
Well, I mean, dumb teenagers going out there at night just to go get drunk or high up in those logging roads. They're going to get what they deserve. I mean, life's like a horror movie in some ways, but I don't know. Go ahead, please.
Sorry, I was going to say off those logging roads, which is interesting. There's a lot of like communities. They don't, I guess, I'm not sure if you'd really consider them like freemen of the land, but they're communities that have gone outside of typical society, and they're just kind of living out there on land. And there's a lot of, if you can get somebody from those communities to talk to you, because usually they just want you to go away and they don't want to be acknowledged. They do have some pretty interesting stories about things they've seen out there and witnessed. And, there are some compelling stories about these creatures. So, I always find that very fascinating, and I'm not quick to dismiss them because have anything to gain by telling these stories.
Oh, wait a minute. So are these people living like without electricity, without internet, without any of that stuff? Like they're pure what do they call them? Apocalypses or off the grid. Like Scott will be someday probably. Yep. But I mean, if I was a dog man, or say a vicious Bigfoot, or any cryptid that, or a frogman even that wants to kill people for some reason. Yes, Scott, I said frogman.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure we got past frogman.
You're never past the Loveland frogman. But I mean, that seems like the perfect place to go if you want easy targets, because no phones, no internet, no way to contact people at all, no electricity even, so it's just gonna be dark at night, and besides like fire, but dogman ain't afraid no fire. So I mean, that'd just be a perfect that'd be an easy picking ground. That'd be easy picking. Like he can go every night and just pick one out if he wants, what he wants, come back like 5 nights later, like, all right, I finished that guy. Who's next? Like, I mean, that's my theory. My dogs agree, apparently.
So I was probably out, you might have said this, but how big is your investigation crew?
Oh.
So We have a core team. There's me and 3 other ladies. There's Jennifer, who's one of the original investigators, so she's our senior investigator. There's Angela, who's another great investigator. She's like our a really good analysis or data analysis. And then Lorianne, who's our researcher, officer. You know, and then we have our expanding part of the team, like Alex. He's like our videographer, so we consider him part of the team. And there's quite a few supporting people that we have as well. Probably another 5, 6 people that, you know, do occasional investigations with us in other ways. But right now, that's the basis of our team, and it's working quite well. And actually, going back a bit about just when you were mentioning about it'd be neat to do a collaboration type investigation, something that would be quite interesting is like if whoever could come with us, we could easily set up an investigation, and then we could do a remote investigation too, where whoever isn't able to physically be there, we could just set up some live stream cameras. And we've done this quite often, where like you're watching all the camera points and seeing what we're not seeing from a different angle.
Oh, that'd be
Sounds like Deborah needs to get down there.
That would be
Did
amazing.
you say you were close?
Yeah, well, anytime we can set something up,
Well,
and we would be happy to welcome you. So
I mean, BC and Alberta, I think, wherever it is. Like,
Different provinces, yeah.
How long?
are they
far
like
away?
5? Are they like 5 American states apart, or are they like 2 American states apart?
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought you guys were like
No,
across
Scott,
town or something.
in Canada, provinces are completely like they're like half the United States. So yeah.
But still, that would be fun.
Well, I've
Yeah.
actually thought about reaching out to the investigators here. I'm more worried about like, I'm just live streaming for our podcast with some investigators. Can you bring that shit home with you? Is what I'm worried about.
you could, but the thing is, like we always do, like I said, or I always use energy to kind of keep us safe. And I think that's also a good time where if you use your ego, just being like, nope, I'm a big tough paranormal investigator, you keep your distance. Like the intent, like whether it's a placebo effect or not, if you have any relics or you know, like I always wear my bracelets, and I have this like 16th century cross that I found in England. I believe those things keep me safe. If you do rituals, like take your shoes off before you come in to your home, you know, and you do a closed down circle where like, you know, you set your intent, like you're not allowed to follow me home, and use like the power of 3, like all of these things that you can layer up. And if you just believe, you know, you set that intent, you're not coming into my space, you're not welcome, I'm not inviting you into my space, typically you'll be fine. But candle magic, I always use things like cinnamon, panto would always burn after an investigation as soon as I come home, just to make it uncomfortable and reset the energy bells. All of those things will keep you safe, right? And as long as the main thing is you believe you're going to be safe, the same as like if you have that intent of like, if you're going out to this event outside, there's some sketchy people around, but you're like, I'm going to protect my family, and you kind of have that energy about you where like, I'm keeping my family safe and I'm not letting anything into that space. Those things will work and keep you safe.
Well,
yeah, I
gotta
mean,
get some Facebook paranormal investigators.
Scott, I'm telling you, just walk in and be like, birds aren't real, the earth is flat. Just keep saying that mantra over and over again, you'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Yeah, the ghosts won't want to mess with me at that point, huh?
They'll be like, he's crazy enough. We don't need to get involved with him.
No, it's true. Energy, if something's negative, it has to leave if you tell it to. If you do not allow it, it has to leave. That's
I mean,
just how it is.
I'm pretty sure there's some big demons out there would be like, yeah, fuck your energy. Boosh. Like,
Well,
but yeah.
there'd be some that are strong. I mean, it's just stronger energy, but you have all sorts of, like she's saying, all kinds of and angels. That's when you rely on it.
Yeah,
bigger energy than yourself.
I mean,
and it still has to go. It has to go.
You run into the nun on a freaking investigation. I'm good. I ain't dealing with no freaking nun ghost. I'm good.
Yeah, I would like to see it, but at the same time, I wouldn't.
No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. No, Scott, you go to the Vatican, that's all you're going to see.
Yeah, I
None
don't know.
ghost.
It's like a
None
catch
ghost.
22.
That's why they don't want. That's why they don't have to have guards in the library, even because that's what's in there.
Well, one day I'll be president and we'll go confiscate that 15 miles of books.
Scott,
Find
that's
out
Scott's
the
goal.
truth.
That's Scott's goal for the zombie apocalypse when it happens is he's gonna go live in the Vatican, just read books for the rest of his days after he, hopefully
I'm
doesn't get
not
sniped.
living there, dude. We're just taking them, and bringing them back
Dude,
to
why
America.
wouldn't you want to? Why wouldn't you want to live there? It's like the best safe house in the world.
Smart people have to read those books. I don't even speak. I mean, there's probably very few of those books that are written in English.
You have a lot of time to learn. Trust me. But I mean, and I don't know. And that's probably where all the Bigfoots and Dogmen are hiding out as bodyguards. Apparently, they were also bodyguards during a '60s conference in Geneva. But that's just what I've been told. The world of paranormal is crazy.
I love it.
Quite fascinating.
Oh, there's an episode dropping soon about velociraptors, extraterrestrials fighting in World War II with American soldiers. So, just saying. I get some interesting guests.
Okay, I got some comments. What about, this was probably like way back when I was doing burritos, but what about quartz skulls?
Well, like Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls? What are we talking about here?
I don't know. Is that
Isn't
like
there like 7 originals or something like that? There's is it 7? I don't know. There's a few.
Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls. There were 7. Yeah.
Yes. So 3 and 7 are like
Magic.
yeah, they're
Lucky
like
numbers.
it's in the spiritual world, like that's why 3, 7, 10, like the power of 3, power of 7. It's just been
I like 13, but yeah.
What are the quartz skulls?
so quartz itself is like the master stone. Like it's pretty much on every continent. You'll find it everywhere throughout the world. It's got a very high vibration. We use it in watches and science, and we do know it has these qualities to it, but it is considered like the master healer, the master stone, the amplifier, and so quartz has always been kind of like, in some cultures and beliefs, it's been more revered than like diamonds, for example. So there has been a belief through pretty much every culture, belief that quartz has these magical abilities and has been able to connect with like spiritual realms, UFOs, like whatever you believe in, like there's always been a connection to quartz. So with these crystal skulls, it is believed that is, whether what am I trying to say here? It just has this like infinite consciousness, the keeper of all hearts, there's just a connection there. So it's been a stone that's always been very, very, very sacred. And the belief is with like the skulls, and that's why like those who believe in crystals and love using crystal energy, like we all have a million of them, because it's a symbol of like energy and a consciousness and a collective. But with these quartz skulls, it's believed that there is a very specific consciousness attached to these skulls as well.
So is this something I could just make with a Dremel, like carve out a skull, or are there specific one?
You could, because that's the thing, it's all about intent, and then whatever you're invoking into that object, right? Like whether it's like your higher consciousness, like your spirit guides, it's just like a physical conductor is basically what you're creating, right? But then you're putting that intent into that, and you're asking for whatever information, connection. It's almost like a telephone in a way, or a computer or something like that, where you're kind of like, I'm using this for a way to connect and to focus that energy. So theoretically, yes, you could, and it would be very specific to what intent you put into that object.
So
They're
there you
such
go,
young
James.
believers, but I swear to God, you guys, I'm gonna have you, when we ever meet, I'm gonna have you hold different stones, different crystals, and you can feel a difference of energy in them. You feel it.
Yeah.
We James,
we'll
you got to go
see.
to the water tower and get us some big pieces of quartz so we can start making some skulls, dude.
But the
Yeah.
thing too is
Yeah.
that's where like it doesn't necessarily have to be quartz. Like, I mean, like a lot of people believe like whatever your zodiac sign is or the month that you're born in or whatever you're looking for. Like, for example, like so you can tell I'm a crystal nerd here, but like labradorite, right? Like there's a few places. This is a big one. It's a stone of magic, a stone of knowledge. Like this is a stone that I often take with me. There's different properties with like jet and obsidian where those keep you safe. So I will always make sure that we have a lot of those types of crystals with us. When we're investigating, I keep it with our equipment just to keep it safe. Say we're investigating and somebody is feeling very sad and their heart's broken, we would use rose quartz, right? Because that's like the crystal of love. You know, it's really quite interesting when you do dive into the crystals, and like Deborah was saying, like if you just hold it, if nobody do anything about those crystals or minerals, like you would feel like the difference holding these energies. So it's a whole other science out there.
I mean, I believe it. I mean, I believe it's highly possible. I just haven't experienced it. So, like everything I don't experience, I don't consider it to be realish. But I mean, except for dogmen and frogmen, I mean, I have to believe they're. I have to believe they're real. I have to believe they're real.
Yeah, Frogman especially. Yeah,
Right?
Jeremy likes the out there ones.
Well, we've been there, Scott. Deborah dated a frogman back in the freaking 90s. Come on.
I think Frogman, we can. I mean, at the end of that episode, even you were saying, Jeremy, that I think this is bullshit. Like
I
even
think
you were like, oh yeah.
No, I said if there maybe they were extraterrestrials that were on this planet and there was only a few of them that came and they left after a certain time, or they're still around. Who knows? Reports still happen to the modern days, so you never know, Scott.
They're like the guys that showed up at the costume party with the really bad costume and realized they suck and they need to get out of there.
I mean, I could say a lot of band names here, but okay. But I mean, I don't know. If reptilians can exist, then why can't frogmen? Come on. Aliens are of all different animal species, so who knows? Who knows? Just like the Earth is flat, right, Scott?
I guess. Do you have any investigations coming up soon? Like bigger ones?
Well, we just finished one at the Craig Flowers Schoolhouse. That's one that isn't open to a lot of people, so we go there quite a bit, and I think we're hoping to go back there. We want to go back to the Royal Victoria Golf Course because we want to bring some with us. That's kind of like our big famous ghost story here on Vancouver, well, in Victoria, about the April ghost. There was a lady named Doris Gravlin who was murdered by her husband in, I think it was like 1936, and so the story goes that like every April she shows, but there's no reason for her to be showing herself in April. So, and we think there's a bit of just we're not really sure why that story has turned into the April haunting, right? But so we go back there quite a bit. So we've been going there quite, and we want to bring in some other people to see if they are able to notice anything outside of the April haunt or supposedly showings there. So we'll be going back there. And yeah, we've got just a few little investigations that we find little, but you know, we shouldn't really say that because they're all valuable, but that's kind of what we've got on the books right now. We're working on some bigger events coming up, but it's really hard here in Victoria to get a place that will allow you to investigate, because since COVID, everything was just shut down, and two, those who do allow you to investigate want a ridiculous amount of money.
Oh,
Thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars And we've got a few like home investigations, things like that on the go right now. So, but you know, things always pop up where like you think you have nothing and then some major investigation will happen in a week and you're frantically trying to or to pull it together. So, but yeah, right now it's just hoping to go back to Craig Flowers Schoolhouse in the next little bit here and finish off investigations there. And Ross Bay
crazy.
Cemetery is one we go to a lot.
That's crazy. You have to pay that so much money to. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's I don't know. Unfortunately, it's because we've been dubbed one of the, you know, top 5 haunted places in Canada that it's turned unfortunately into a bit of a cash grab. Insurance is another thing too. And I do get that. Like everybody wants you to have insurance, but I mean, like it can cost you up to $1,000 per event to investigate. And for us poor investigators, you know,
So do you have like a legitimate business license and like,
Yep.
like run it? Okay. And then do you
But-
have to have full on like, insurance to keep that going? Like, how does that work? Are you as a nonprofit or is it like a for-profit business? I mean, in
So-
Canada, it's different anyway.
Yeah, so technically our group is like Unearthing Shadows Paranormal is a non-profit. Like we never charge for what we do. Like it's all just, you know, for the greater good. But I have a production company. I have 2 companies, and through that, sometimes that gives us an open door to allow us to investigate. And so through that, we still try to charge through that, but some places just require insurance, and so then I'll have insurance held under that. We try to find ways to not be charged insurance, like through where we'll just do waivers and like release of indemnities or waivers and liability and that sort of thing. Work around, we have to get into these places cheaper. But if it's anything through, a lot of these historical sites are owned by the provincial government, and there's just no workarounds. Like you just have to have insurance. So, and
So-
sometimes
Goddamn Justin Trudeau.
How does that work in like here you for like general liability insurance, you got to pay monthly? Like, is it a per case basis when you get an insurance?
it's whatever you want. You can do if it's just our team, we can do it per occurrence. Sometimes the place we are going through, and I'll get included as like an additional insured under their insurance. If we're holding a public investigation, which we're just trying to start to get back into doing that again, then you do have to get like an umbrella insurance that covers our team, the equipment, the location, and as well as any public in person and that's coming with us. And in addition to that, they also have to sign a waiver. It gets so complicated.
Jeez, insurance companies.
Like I've had insurance for handyman businesses and landscape businesses. Like when you call the insurance agent and you're like shopping around for insurance, and then like what are the risks, like the potential risks? How does that go down with it? You should record that because that would be a very interesting conversation.
Yeah. So there's risks into the millions because of like just actually kind of even jumping it back a bit. There's very, very few. I think there's like 3 insurance companies that will even touch the paranormal, and they more consider it like an entertainment type deal. But you know, there's so many gray areas because a lot of them are just like, a lot of them don't believe, for one. So they're like, how do we insure something that we don't believe? What if somebody accuses you of saying like, that person got me possessed? And like, how do you, you know,
The mental health costs or whatever could be.
exactly. And then that's exactly it. So then the insurance dives into the mental health, the distraught, the mental manipulation, I guess, is the one term that they used. You know, and then also like the obscure locations that you go to, and then you're dealing with people with little tiny bugs running around in the dark, and you know, it's just endless, but like the risk is significant. So like we could be sued for millions.
Mhm.
Have you ever heard of a paranormal investigation group that has been tried to be sued for like a possession case or something like that?
A few other teams that I'd worked with, they had people come after them, but then when they realized like that was very damaging to their personal reputation, it always kind of got chalked up to being like they just were looking for a cash grab and a new way to create this TikTok or, you know, like social media.
Or if you have them signed on like a media release or a waiver or whatever, right? Like I would probably have everybody sign that
Yeah.
that's going to be involved if they're my guest. Kind of thing.
So that's exactly just it. Like our team in particular, like before we go to any like home investigation, or I very rarely let anybody outside of our team investigate with us. And if I do, I make sure that they sign all these waivers. And usually they're pretty, like after they read my ironclad waivers, they're too afraid to do anything to begin with. I definitely take it a little bit too far, but you know, it's just out of protection, right? Because
Yeah.
you know, you don't want to lose your home, everything
Better
you've
than-
worked so hard for.
Better than getting sued for it. Yeah. Fuck that.
So we've been pretty lucky there.
Well, there you go. Well, that interesting. It's been an interesting night, but what are we doing next week, guys? I have no freaking clue yet.
I don't
And
know,
wait a
one
minute.
of yours or Deborah's topic.
Oh, wait a minute. Shit is my pick, isn't it?
Is
God
you.
damn it.
This
I'm
is
pretty
we
sure
decided at the end of every show we take turns picking what we're doing.
I'll try to get a hold of some paranormal investigators for my well shit, that's gonna be hard because then they're gonna have to be investigating somewhere at the time that we do the show. So
You got to plan that months ahead of time, Scott.
Yeah.
But shit. For my topic, well, actually, since I think the movie's coming out pretty soon, let's do Megalodons and other fantastical sea creatures part 2.
yeah.
Beautiful. Well, Andrea, this was totally enjoyable and fascinating for me, and I love the way you describe how you feel spirits because it's exactly, you know, I've seen some, but not most often. I just feel, sense, and like know things. Like it's a real sensory thing, and it's hard to explain. So I love how you explained it. I'm like, yes, that's exactly how it goes. I just kind of get information. I can sense who's who. But anyways, this was really fascinating for me. It was awesome. And crystals, like I don't know if these guys, I'm gonna ship you off some crystals for Christmas. That's what you're getting from me, you boys. This is real.
Better than what we got last year.
Yeah, right.
Oh, well, what did Deborah get last year? Come on.
Right.
Nothing. Nothing. A big fat sack of nothing.
Well, thank you very much for having me on. And yes, Deborah, I feel like you and I need to talk more offline because I think we understand we're coming from the
Absolutely.
same.
Absolutely.
Deborah,
Yeah.
Deborah's on Facebook.
Yeah,
Perfect.
well, thank you for
Actually,
coming on.
Instagram too, I think. I don't know.
You got to come on to the bracket. That's fun.
Yeah, well, I've been thinking about it, Scott, and I think I'm gonna keep you and Deborah off my brackets on my show, so you guys have them fresh on this show, and it's not like a repeat.
Yeah.
Because that way, it's more entertaining to see you take these things for the first time. You know,
To be fair, I don't remember either time we do
beer's a wonderful thing, Scott, isn't
them.
it? But
Every day's a new day for Scott. After
that's Global Strangers for this week. Part of the Blame Candidate, part of BCN, the Blame Candidate Network.
Andrea, do you want to shout out one more time your socials where people can
Oh,
find
well,
you?
please.
Thank you. No, I'd love that. Our team account is Unearthing Shadows Paranormal on Instagram, also on TikTok, and you can find us by searching Unearthing Shadows Paranormal on YouTube, and that's where we upload a lot of our findings, and we've got actually tons coming up. And my just to give them a shout out because they're wonderful ladies. Jennifer is USP_Jennifer. And then Angela is USP_Angela. And then Lorianne is USP_Lorianne researcher. And I'm everything about me is just always either Unearthing Shadows Paranormal or just Unearthed Shadows. So I just blend into the mix there.
Well, I did tag your page on Facebook in this for this live broadcast, so they'll be there.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that.
Of course. And we will see you all next week to discuss megalodons.
That is a wrap.
Yeah.
Have a good week,
Goodbye,
everybody.
everybody. And stopping live stream now.